I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting for the City of Highland Park, Illinois, October 6, 2025. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Center.
Present.
Councilmember Bruckman.
Here.
Councilmember Ross.
Here.
Councilmember Tapia.
Present.
Councilmember Littler.
Here.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Here.
Mayor Rotering.
Here, we have a quorum. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular City Council meeting held September 25th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye.
Present.
Any opposed?
The adjustment was made.
As amended?
Yeah.
Okay, so Hart, do we need to retake that motion?
Yeah, I think it's news.
So I'm seeking a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Present.
Thank you. Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved as amended. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the warrant list?
So moved. Second.
Any comments or questions on the warrant list?
No.
Any from the public? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Center.
Aye.
Councilmember Bruckman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Littler.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye. 7 ayes, no nays. The warrant list is approved. Our next item is the report of the mayor. We have new software, so bear with us. We're like getting our bearings up here. Before we continue our business this evening, I'd like to pause and remember the victims of the October 7th, 2023 attacks in Israel, those who are still held hostage in Gaza and their loved ones. Yesterday, I shared some reflections on these past 2 years. It's inconceivable. And I'd like to share them with you this evening. On Tuesday, October 7th, we will mark 2 years since people in Israel of multiple nationalities were brutally attacked in places that should have been safe, in their communities, in their homes, at a music festival, with family, neighbors, and friends. More than 1,200 people were killed and hundreds more were taken hostage. It remains the highest single-day death toll of Jewish people since the Holocaust. We continue to hold in our hearts the hostages who remain in captivity and the families who wait for their return. In particular, we honor the memories of Hirsch Goldberg Poland, Itai Saif, and all those with connections to Highland Park. Over the past 2 years, we've joined together in prayer, action, and solidarity. Vigils, fundraising efforts, and personal outreach have shown that our community stands with our neighbors and our friends as they navigate unimaginable loss and uncertainty. The city has formally designated October 7th as a day of remembrance and solidarity with our Jewish community, ensuring that the victims, the hostages, and their families are never forgotten. Sadly, these years have also underscored the troubling rise of anti-Semitism here in Highland Park, or here in the United States. Hate of any kind has no place in Highland Park. Earlier this year, the city adopted the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism to further affirm our support for our Jewish residents and our commitment to standing against hate in all of its forms. Everyone deserves to live free of hate and of fear. Highland Park is not alone in this commitment. Our faith communities, civic organizations, and neighboring towns have joined together to speak with one voice in rejecting anti-Semitism and strengthening support for our Jewish neighbors. These efforts, rooted in shared values of compassion, safety, and dignity, remind us the community is strongest when we all stand together. As Sukkot approaches, actually it's here, may we all find comfort in reflection, connection, and the bonds of community. Whether you celebrate or not, my wish for the Jewish New Year is for peace and for understanding. Thank you. I have no appointments this evening. We do have 2 proclamations this evening. We're going to start with the Sister Cities International Day. October 14th is the annual celebration of the volunteers and partnerships of Sister Cities International. In Highland Park, a dedicated team of volunteers have cultivated strong relationships with our 3 sister cities, Modena, Italy, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and Yeroham, Israel. We'll now read the proclamation. Whereas Sister Cities International was founded as a presidential initiative by President Dwight D. Eisenhower on September 11, 1956 at the White House Conference on Citizen Diplomacy to create more community-led global relationships so that people of different cultures could appreciate their differences and build partnerships that would lessen the chance of new international conflicts. And whereas Sister Cities International Day is a fitting occasion to commemorate the impact that this organization has made in building bridges across nations, cities, and communities around the globe in order to create and sustain world peace. Whereas there is no better day to celebrate the birth of the modern Sister Cities movement than on the birthday of its founder, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, which is October 14th. And whereas Sister Cities International currently has members in 1,800 communities in 138 countries on 6 continents. And whereas the city of Highland Park is proud to be part of a global network with sister city partnerships in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, Modena, Italy, and Yeroham, Israel. And whereas sister city relationships include educational, economic, cultural, municipal, and humanitarian assistance exchange programs that are mutually beneficial to each community. And whereas Sister Cities International Day is a call to action for Highland Park's residents and citizens of the world to come together to celebrate the importance of communities' continued commitment to supporting a more peaceful and prosperous future through continued people-to-people exchanges. And whereas Sister Cities International Day is an opportune time for Highland Park and cities across the world to show how powerful humanity can be when communities unite to promote peace, progress, and prosperity for a better world. Now, therefore, I, Nancy Rotary, Mayor of the City of Highland Park and the City Council of Highland Park, do hereby declare October 14, 2025 as Sister Cities International Day, and we encourage all residents to learn more about Highland Park's phenomenal Sister Cities Foundation. From robotics to opera, the Highland Park Sister Cities work really enriches our community, building bridges between Highland Park and our 3 sister cities. We're delighted to welcome Highland Park Sister Cities Foundation President Carol Wolf to accept the proclamation and share an update on what really is a true gem in Highland Park.
Thank
Welcome.
you so much. Thank you, Mayor. The City of Highland Park includes vibrancy as one of its 6 priorities. Clearly, the Highland Park Sister Cities Foundation exemplifies this priority. In 2024, our program received its 5th award for Best Overall Program from the organization that you spoke about, Sister Cities International. We have a broad reach locally and internationally. We maintain the Pierce Garden and Sister Cities Park in the center of downtown. The garden, which boasts the sculpture of the whale that was a gift from our sister city, Puerto Vallarta, honors Mayor Dan Pierce, who founded the Sister Cities Foundation 37 years ago. And Rhoda is here
Rhoda is
tonight.
here.
And she and Rhoda was our first president. This year, we partnered, well, it's been going on for a couple years actually, with our community robotics team called Meta Infinity to create opportunities for students in Highland Park to collaborate with students in our sister cities. Lucas Hubler and his team have been mentoring students in Puerto Vallarta. The collaboration with Puerto Vallarta has resulted in Highland Park students being invited to participate in an international robotics competition, excuse me, called RoboRave, which will take place in Puerto Vallarta in December. We want to thank Councilwoman Ross for her support in helping us obtain some sponsorships. And I also think it's important to mention our past liaison, Andre Tapia, and Annette Lidauer for their continued support, in addition to all of the members of the council. You mentioned Itai Seif. Itai was a young man who came to Highland Park as a part of our robotics exchange with Yeroham, although now they're calling it Yerucham, so I'm still working on that through. Itai came as a part of the robotics exchange, and he was killed in Gaza as a soldier with the IDF. Mayor Rodering said, how are we going to honor Itai's memory? Well, after a lot of hard work, we are so excited to announce that we have collaborated with the Highland Park Library, and they are creating, or we are providing, an Itai Seif toolkit that will be included in the library's Library of Things. So people from Highland Park can rent a toolkit, and on the cover of the toolkits, it will say, in honor of Itai Seif. We also created a student robotics program that is going to take place here in Highland Park for young people in Itai's memory. We created a student architecture exchange which was proposed by our student liaisons, one of our student liaisons, Liam Ornstein, where students in Highland Park are now working with students in Puerto Vallarta on architecture, issues in architecture, challenges being faced by the environment, and also historic and relevant buildings in both cities. We were planning a music exchange with our sister city, Yaruha, but then October 7th happened, and our efforts were redirected to humanitarian support. I am so happy to report that the music exchange is once again planned for this spring. Fran Sherman, co-concertmaster with the Highland Park Strings, has been to Yaruha and met with the director of the music conservatory there. She and Larry Block, who is a member of our board and the founder and cellist with the Highland Park Strings, are working on this exciting program that will include music students from Highland Park. A plug, this Sunday, the Highland Park Strings will be performing at the Highland Park High School. That's something you don't want to miss. They are really a local treasure. We also were approached by Maria Barbonente, who's the Italian teacher at the high school, to create a pilot program for teaching Italian through opera. And we're going to collaborate with tenor Gianni Coletta, who has been to Highland Park several times from Modena, to help initiate this project. On Monday, October 27th, we're partnering with Sunset Foods here in Highland Park for our annual Parmigiano Reggiano Day to celebrate the day that Massimo Bottura, the renowned chef from our sister city, Modena, saved the Parmesan industry after an earthquake. We're going to be raffling off a basket of gourmet items donated by Sunset, and all funds raised will go to an organization called Food for Soul. Massimo Bottura started this organization that works with restaurants around the world to provide high-quality meals for the underserved from food that the restaurants have left over. We hope to see you all at Sunset on October 27th between 11 and 3. We participate in community projects such as the Highland Park Day of the Dead, Focus on the Arts, and the National Night Out. And as president of the Illinois Sister Cities Association, I've had the opportunity to bring what we do here in Highland Park as a model to cities across the state. And that's really been a tremendous joy for me to be able to promote Highland Park throughout the state of Illinois. Yes, the Highland Park Sister Cities Foundation contributes to the vibrancy of our community. Locally, at the state level, and internationally, we provide opportunities. We build bridges to connect cultures. We promote peace and mutual understanding through people-to-people exchanges and citizen diplomacy. We're so grateful to you. I just can't even find the words, Mayor Roden, for your continued support, and each one of you on the City Council. What you do to help us cannot be overstated. We are just so grateful. Thank you all for listening to me, and we thank you for your support.
Wonderful. Thank you, Carol.
I need to acknowledge, I acknowledge Rhoda Pierce, who is here, but I also want to acknowledge Matt Pestine, who is the vice president in charge of our relationship with Yaruham, his wife Jamie, and then my husband Rick, who is in charge of our relationship with Puerto Vallarta. Other people in our committee wanted to be here tonight, unable to be because of prior commitments, but we really do have an amazing group.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Carol.
Picture?
Here, Rick, why don't you?
Rick should be in the picture.
Rhoda, Jamie,
Come on, Jamie.
after all that planting, girl. Oh my God, I'm so filthy. Good luck, man.
Wonderful. Thank you all.
Hi, Matt. Mayor, may I add something?
Sure.
I wanted to, I don't know, is this on?
It should be.
I guess it's on. It doesn't sound like it, but I wanted to mention, Carol, I wanted to add something that robot that you described that Meta Infinity is working on, that Lucas and Meta Infinity is working on, with their teammates in Mexico. The work of the robot is to clean oceans of trash, which I think is just so wonderful.
It is so cool. They're working together
Yeah.
to design this robot, and they're working on Zoom and in WhatsApp. And the goal is to clean ocean trash, and then it could eventually be used, hopefully, in our lakes as well.
It's just fantastic, and you're such a great organization, and I want to say the more I learn about you, the more I love what you do. We love what you do, so thank you.
Very much. Thank you. Thank you. Continuing with the report of the mayor, this year, Diwali celebrations begin on October 20th. This 5-day festival celebrates the victory of light over darkness and is marked by beloved traditions, including family gatherings and festive lights among Hindu, Jain, Sikh, and certain Buddhist communities. I have a proclamation. Welcome, friends. Thanks for joining us tonight. Whereas Diwali, a festival of great significance, is celebrated annually by millions of Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, and Buddhists throughout the United States and across the globe. And whereas the Hindu, Sikh, Jain, and Buddhist communities, which are comprised mostly of Indian and South Asian Americans, as well as other diverse races and ethnicities, constitute a vital part of Highland Park's diverse ethnic and social fabric, and whose languages, cultures, and religious beliefs have enriched our community. And whereas the word Diwali is a shortened version of the Sanskrit term Diwali, which means a row of lamps. And whereas Diwali is a festival of lights during which celebrants light small oil lamps, place them around the home, and pray for knowledge, peace, and universal well-being. And whereas the rows of lamps symbolize the light of knowledge and truth within the individual that signifies the destruction of all negative qualities such as violence, anger, jealousy, ignorance, greed, fear, or suffering. In other words, Diwali celebrates the victory of good over evil. And whereas Diwali is celebrated by Hindus as a day of thanksgiving for the homecoming of Lord Rama and the beginning of the new year for many Hindus, and whereas for Sikhs, Diwali is the day the 6th founding Sikh guru or revered teacher, Guru Hargobind, was released from captivity by the Mughal Emperor Jahangir. And whereas for Jains, Diwali marks the anniversary of the attainment of moksha, or liberation, by Mahavira, the last of the Tirthankaras, at the end of his life in 527 BC. And whereas for Buddhists, especially Nuar Buddhists, Diwali is commemorated as a Shuk, and I'm so sorry that I'm just tripping all over this, and I apologize, Vijay Dashami, the day the great Emperor Ashoka embraced Buddhism as his faith. Therefore, I, Nancy Rodering, Mayor of the City of Highland Park and the City Council of the City of Highland Park, do hereby designate October 20th, 2025 as Diwali Awareness Day, and are so delighted to welcome dear friends who have come to join us this evening. We wish all who are celebrating a very happy and bright Diwali and good fortune in the new year. And I'd like to invite Suku and Ajit Kaura, who are owners of Indus Progressive Indian Restaurant and so much more than just owners of a restaurant in this community, to accept the proclamation and share some remarks. Thank you. Taking a photo, and then we'd love to hear from you. Yeah, we got everybody up here. Friends, come up, please, all of you, of course. This is wonderful. Yumi. Yay! Wow.
With joy and pride in our community of Highland Park, we receive this proclamation and thank our great city and its amazing leaders for celebrating all its citizens and residents. It's so fitting that we're commemorating the festival of Diwali that marks the triumph of light over darkness here in Highland Park. That very sentiment drove us to choose downtown Highland Park, Port Clinton Square, to be the home for Indus. We felt that immense need to bring some light back to our community. That bright light that our hometown of Highland Park exuded earlier had softened due to the horrific attack on the 4th of July. We're thankful that Indian food culture has helped the tiniest bit to revive that brightness back to our beautiful and welcoming city. Thank you so much.
I don't have any prepared remarks, thank you, Sukhu, but I do want to share just a tiny story from 13 years ago when Sukhu and I moved onto Kincaid Street in Highland Park. And all of our friends immediately said, Highland Park, are there any South Asians there? Are there any Indians there? Will you be welcome? And we're like, oh my God, it's been great. I'm sure it'll be great. Boy, did I understate the welcome that we have received in this incredible community. As Indian Americans, we have had the confidence and absolute privilege of having both our kids born in the Highland Park Hospital, raising them both in the public school system here, and under the leadership of this incredible council and the mayor, we have always been welcomed and cherished as Indian Americans, and as Highland Parkers. So I just wanted to say truly thank you. Thank you for that opportunity. And today when I look out and I see so many of my Indian American Highland Park friends and North Shore friends of different faiths, including Catholics and Hindus and Sikhs, it is just a joy. And you have to acknowledge it is a testament to the warmth and the incredible embrace that Highland Park gives all of its residents. So that doesn't happen. It has to be built. It has to be created. So I'm looking at all of you who have actually built that for all of us. So thank you truly from the bottom of our hearts.
Wonderful. So I'm going to say you're having a party at Indus, I believe, with dancing and delicious food. It's your second annual Indus Diwali celebration, and it's this Saturday. And any other details? What time do we start?
We sold out. But
We sold out.
we just opened another dozen slots today because we just received a lot of requests.
The party will continue out into the street.
Online with a few more seats.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Yeah, right. And as for the report of the mayor, I have no other business this evening. Is there any business, city manager?
Yes, Mayor, just want to identify the 9 items.
Assistant to the city manager, Pavlitska, would you please introduce the next item on our agenda, which is business from the public?
Thank you, Mayor. The next item on the agenda is business from the public. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the city council on a topic that is within the council's purview and jurisdiction, but is not listed in another location on the agenda. If you would like to speak about a matter that is listed on the agenda, we ask that you wait until that agenda item is called, and we will give you an opportunity to speak then. If your matter is on the omnibus consent agenda, please let us know if you'd like us to remove that matter from the consolidated list so that you can speak about it. Please be aware that business from the public is not intended to be a forum for
Please leave
open-
the door open because we have an Open Meetings Act that we follow. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Please-
Sorry, thank
It's
you.
okay, no worries. Please be aware that business from the public is not intended to be a forum for open dialogue or engagement with the members of the city council. Rather, it is intended as an opportunity to make comments to the city council. Please do not expect a response from anyone tonight. If appropriate, questions may be directed to the city manager or other city staff. All comments should be directed to the city council. All speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. We request that speakers refrain from throwing objects or using noisemakers, and that the public not applaud or make other comments after any speaker. We ask that everyone be respectful, civil, and non-repetitive.
Great, thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to be heard this evening on an item not on tonight's agenda? We will have opportunity for public comment for agenda items momentarily. Okay, seeing none, we'll continue on with our scheduled business. We do have items 1 through 9 grouped together for omnibus consideration. Which items, Councilmember Ross, did you want to pull?
I have a quick question on number 7, the
Okay.
sign.
The sign variances? Okay. What's your quick question?
And I don't know if anyone representing the barn is here.
They are.
Oh, they are?
Do you want us to pull the item, or do you want
Well, it's just a question about whether the box with the power supply is on the exterior, or is it behind the brick for the sign that's,
Sorry, come up to the podium and you've got the crowd out there.
Hi, I'm Amy. So that's an
Very nice looking sign, by the way.
excellent question. Oh, thanks, I'm so glad. We will not be able to see the junction box, that is certain. They will be bringing the power to it, and my understanding, and we've sent in the plans, that it will be hidden behind the sign.
thank you.
Of course.
Great, thank you.
Anything else?
Anything else for number 7? Nope, okay, thanks for being here.
I just have to say, it is the most incredible experience being at the Highland Park Council meetings. They are so positive
Thanks.
and full of love for community. It's really great.
Thank you, I'm
I'm
so glad
excited
you
to
could
be
join
here.
us this evening. Thank you. Councilmember Lidward.
So I have a question just about 8 and 9. I don't want to pull it, it's just a quick question. And
Okay.
my question is simply, why is this taking so long? Because we're just renewing the exact same thing we did, and I understand after a certain period of time, we have to do that. So I guess I'm asking, why is it
What's the
taking so
delay?
long? Yeah.
I'll just defer to Director Fontaine.
Thanks.
You may need to give a
Madam
little
Mayor.
context just for everybody, but whatever.
I'm sorry?
It's okay.
Okay.
No, it's okay.
Madam Mayor, yeah, so we've been working with the applicant. They had some delays in providing their plat of survey, and after 9 months, that does need to be reapproved. And same with the land development. They have not commenced their construction. There is a representative here tonight, Ms. Martinez, but that's really the reason. They had some delays in implementing their project, and now they're looking to go forward. I will say, from the city's behalf, we're eager for them to do so and to make those improvements and to abide by the conditions of approval that this council placed on the project.
I mean, it looked like a beautiful thing, it's just, it seems to be taking a very long time.
Yes, they have not commenced, that's correct.
Thank you. Okay, with any further questions from the council on any items on omnibus? No? Seeking a motion to approve items 1 through 9.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the public on items 1 through 9? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Center.
Aye.
Councilmember Brockman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 7 ayes, no nays. Items 1 through 9 are approved. Due to our new cool software, if you look at items after 9, they become letters. So we are now in section 12, and item A is consideration of a special use permit in the nature of a concurrent preliminary and final plan development and design review with modifications from city code for 250 Skokie Valley Road. Do we need a presentation? Did you, you what?
I don't.
You don't. Did you do your homework? Okay, everybody.
have one question.
Yes, Councilmember Lidwar.
I just have one question, and that's either for staff or for the petitioner, and that is, there are no numbers for crash reports. KLOA did a very comprehensive traffic study, but every time we looked, it's just a squiggly line, and there are no traffic crash reports. So I was wondering if you had more information than I do.
I do. I did contact the applicant and spoke with KLA today. At the time that report was created, the information online was not available. due to some technical difficulty. That's what I was told, and they will provide that information before your final vote on this item. This is just for consideration and directing documents be drafted tonight. So we'll have that back before
As
you.
long as that information's in there, that's great. Thank you.
Yes.
And a landscape plan will also be provided in the final documents?
Yes, all final. Yes, this would be for final, preliminary and final concurrently, correct.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on this item? No? So with that, I'm requesting a motion to create the approval documents for a future city council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Center?
Aye.
Councilmember Brockman? Aye. Councilmember Ross?
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia?
Aye.
Councilmember Littleworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg?
Aye.
Mayor Rotering?
Aye, 7 ayes, no nays. Item 12A, we will see those documents at a date in the future. Item 12B is consideration of a special use permit in the nature of a concurrent preliminary and final plan development, final plat of re-subdivision and design review with modifications from City Code for a 5-story, 19-unit multi-family development at 1632, 1640, and 1646 Second Street.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay. So staff recommends consideration of the Plan and Design Commission's recommendation to approve a preliminary and final plan development, final plat of re-subdivision and design review with modifications from City Code for a 5-story, 19-unit multifamily residential development. If appropriate, City Council should direct staff draft approval documents for consideration at a future meeting. So a little background on this project. Fulton Developers is the applicant and proposes a project that includes 19-unit condo building with 5 stories with a lower level parking garage. They propose access into the alley, access onto the alleyway and onto Walnut Street. And additional parking and landscaping is also provided, which we'll talk about. Okay, the council's consideration this evening, this is for initial consideration, not final consideration, but there are 4 elements to this application. A plat of re-subdivision with no variances or waivers requested, a concurrent preliminary and final plan development with modifications from City Code, a payment in lieu consideration for affordable housing unit not on site, and design review. That was already considered, but nonetheless included in the package here this evening. Okay, so the commission's consideration. So 2 commissions reviewed this, the Plan and Design Commission and the Housing Commission. The Housing Commission's review is provided for the Plan and Design Commission prior to their approval or recommendation, I should say, to you all. So on September 16th, the Plan and Design Commission did recommend approval 5-1 with conditions and a public benefit proposed. Public comments are in the City Council's package, and additional were received since the posting, and I believe sent to you all via email. They will be included in the next packet when this comes back to you if appropriate. On September 10th, the Housing Commission recommended 5-0 the final inclusionary plan that's in the packet. The proposed payment in lieu of $185,400 for one of the 3.2 inclusionary units required, and the $37,080 by right payment in lieu for the partial unit requirement of 0.2 units. The $185,400 is in the annual fee schedule, and that is the payment in lieu for a single unit. The Housing Commission also approved a departure with regard to the location of affordable units to allow 2 inclusionary units to be vertically stacked on the 1st and 2nd floor in the northwest corner of the building. The commission also acknowledged the proposed $100,000 public benefit contribution to the Housing Trust Fund. Note that was not before them, but nonetheless did acknowledge it. This was before the PDC in terms of a public benefit consideration and is before you, ultimate arbiters of public benefits, in terms of your final consideration on that matter. Existing conditions. So there are several lots involved in this, four. They consist of various types of housing, all residential, single-family dwelling, a multifamily dwelling of 2 units, and a multifamily dwelling with 10 units. So 13 total units already on the site today. Those homes and those units will be demolished to make way for this proposed development, should it move forward. Neighborhood context, this is is primarily 2 of the areas here are to the east, the north and west, 3 of the 4 directions are zoned RO, which is residential office zoning district, and to the south is an RM multifamily 2 zoning district. Okay, the relief requested. There's several elements of relief requested through this proposal. The relief related to height and lot coverage are the 2 elements of relief that are public benefit related. And so thus we called those out here separately. So for height, 13 feet of relief to allow a 64-foot building with 5 stories within a RO district, which requires a maximum of height of 51 feet and 4 stories in terms of maximum number of stories. So both in terms of height and number of stories there. Lot coverage of 1.48 times more lot coverage at 49%. The requirement is 33% in terms of the maximum. Non-public benefit related relief involves the following items. Pedestrian entrance. They're required on all frontage streets, so Walnut and 2nd Street, but only on 2nd Street frontage has an entrance been included. Lighting at the property line to exceed allowable foot candles on the south and west property lines in particular locations. Foundation landscaping to allow a 3-foot foundation landscape buffer adjacent to the alley instead of the required 5-foot foundation landscaping buffer. Okay, context. In terms of building height, this was an exhibit provided by the applicant. It includes, highlighted here are the buildings to the right that are shown by picture, along with their height and the year of approval. So in terms of the context, you can see on the lower center portion of this slide on the left, that's where the proposed building is. That's a little site plan placed on top of the aerial photography there. So that's where the building is proposed. And you can see here that around this area in the general vicinity, we have 3 65-foot buildings and 2 58-foot tall buildings. Late 90s, early 2000s to mid-aughts were they approved. Okay, lot coverage, another element of relief, both involved in the public benefit consideration. So the applicant provided this exhibit to illustrate recently approved projects in Highland Park. The average multifamily buildings highlighted, and those are in orange here, had 51.1% lot coverage. So you can see here, though, and I do note that these include buildings that are not located in the immediate vicinity of the proposed project, but nonetheless are buildings that were relatively recently proposed and approved and built. Staff did its own lot coverage exhibit in the immediate vicinity of the proposed project. As you can see here, the proposed project is to occur between the 2 parcels labeled 34% and 44%, shown here on this slide. The general vicinity, the average of the highlighted buildings shown, including the Wallbright at 49%, which is under construction right now in the lower right, is 40%. Without the Wallbright, it's in the high 30s, 38% or so and change. Relief, so that's the context in terms of lot coverage in the immediate vicinity of the proposed development. In terms of other relief, there is a relief request for lighting. Along Walnut Street property line to the south, the lighting over that property line varies with a 6.1 foot candle maximum, where there is a 0.5 foot candle requirement. So that's the highest point along this side of the building. On the alley side, it varies as well with a 8.9 foot candle highest point near the guest parking of the alley. Here, the requirement is 0.25 foot candles. The correlated temperature of 3,000 Kelvin max is recommended and is there in the plans as recommended. Landscape relief. As I mentioned at the outset, landscaping along the foundation of 3 feet has been requested. 5 feet is required for the portions of the alley, the western side of the building. It's depicted here near the parking areas specifically. The landscaping requirements in general for the site are shown in the table below. They are all compliant and actually have surpluses. Now, I want to draw your attention to one area, the total trees. There's a surplus of 20 trees. They're providing 41 and 21 are required by code. However, there are some trees being removed, proposed to be removed. And so the surplus 20 trees is required to mitigate the removal of the 9 protected and key trees here. So just wanted to be clear about that. And that does meet code. Public benefit. The applicant proposes a donation of $100,000 to the Housing Trust Fund. This is considered a public benefit. $150,000 was accepted for the Woolbright development as part of that approval a couple of years ago. It's currently under construction. Affordable units that exceed the minimum size requirements and include additional features such as powder rooms and private outdoor space was also noted by the applicant as a public benefit. This, I just note that affordable units are to have similar amenities as the market rate units per code. The affordable units larger than required, in terms of that, we haven't had a consideration like that in the past from council, and it is at council's discretion on what is considered a public benefit. To just be clear about what's actually being proposed as opposed to what's required, I provide the following. The 1 unit, 3-bedroom affordable unit that's offered is 1,425 square feet. The requirement per code is 1,175 square feet. And the 2-bedroom, the 1 2-bedroom unit is 1,080 square feet, and the requirement is 950 square feet. It's at the council's discretion on whether or not that counts as part of a public benefit or not. But these 2 elements were the applicant's proposal on this matter. Traffic study. The conclusions of the traffic study are summarized as follows. The traffic generated can be accommodated by the area roadway systems. The parking spaces are adequate in accommodating estimated peak parking demand, and the total estimated traffic volume will be limited and further reduced due to the proximity to the Highland Park Metro commuter railway. They are providing 43 parking spaces, which it meets code, it actually exceeds it. They are not, although they are eligible to be considered for a alternate transportation reduction in parking, although they're not requesting that formally. And they don't need it to comply. Staff is reviewing a revised traffic study provided after the council agenda posting. This is currently under review by the third-party Civil Tech, the city's traffic engineering consultant. And according to the applicant, the traffic study is conservative and accounts for the Woolbright, but overall conclusions are the same. So this revised traffic study looked at the Woolbright specifically. There was comments, Plan Commission and after Plan Commission, about the Woolbright. That already had its own traffic study. Wasn't included in this traffic study. The applicant really made effort was to make it more explicit that it was. And my understanding is, and we will have Civil Tech review this matter, is that the applicant did not necessarily include the existing traffic from the units that are already on site, 13. So that's why it's considered like conservative, if you will. So the proposal is a 19-unit building. There are 13 units currently on site. So the delta is 6 units. Recommendation again, staff recommends consideration of the Plan Designs Commission's recommendation, and if appropriate, council should direct staff to draft documents for final consideration at a future meeting.
Great, thank you, Director Fontaine.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you to the neighbors for your emails and for your public comments at prior meetings. Those have all been provided to us, and we've been reviewing those in our preparation for tonight. I'm presuming the applicant wants to make some comments, and then I'm sure the council has questions, and then we'll go to public comment, and then we'll talk some more.
Good evening, council members, mayor. My name is Elliot Wixer. My office address is 500 Skokie Boulevard in Northbrook, Illinois. I represent Fulton developers, and present tonight with us is Mark Muller and Kyle Fell, representatives of Fulton. Before I get started, because I am part of the community, I have to say I haven't been in the chamber with the city council for some time, and the room full of people earlier, and all the people that, oh my God, that I know for all these years that I met, it does kind of, it's so encouraging, our community. I mean, it's just such a great place to be, and I felt like I knew more people here tonight than a party at Michael's I went to on Saturday night. So, but with that said, I do want to thank you tonight. This is a project that's been born and bred 4 years ago by Fulton. They've been working on this particular project for that period of time. They did, as was mentioned, that we did have 4 housing commission meetings, some really good, energetic public comment. The commission, I think, was really good at framing the issues for Fulton, and it passed unanimously through housing. We attended 4 Plan and Design Commission meetings. Again, same type of experience where the Plan Commission, along with the public, was very instructive to the developer, and most, if not all, of the comments that were made by the public and by the commission were incorporated, and it passed through Plan Commission with, I think, one negative vote. As Fulton normally does, and I think in our community we encourage it, to at least have some public interaction prior to coming before any of these commissions, to get some public comment, to know what the public concern is. In this case, Fulton sent out 300 letters to property owners and tenants in the area. They had a meeting, I don't know if it was coffee and donuts, but some refreshments, and there was about 30 to 40 people in attendance. And I know that there are still some homeowners that live in the 5-story building across the street that still have some concerns, but again, a very collaborative effort throughout the process, and it's enabled us to bring to you tonight the Walton project. A couple of things. So some of the major issues about height and lot coverage, I just want to point out that the required setback is 5 feet. This project's going to be set back 25 feet from the front yard. I think very thoughtful. I think it'll reduce the bulk look from the street. And the 5th story, though I think there's all of the 5-story units that were shown on the chart a few minutes ago, all of those needed approval. I can't tell you which commission approved it, if this body approved it, but they all needed approval. It wasn't as of right. And all of those buildings, unlike this project, and I think most of the Fulton projects that try to minimize that look from the street, all of those projects are 5 feet to the property setback. And so like what one might think this is gonna look like, it's not gonna look like that because the setback. And then another great aspect of the property is the 5th floor step back. I always wanna say setback, but it's 33 feet from the property line and set back some 10 feet from the edge of the building. So that view and that look will also be minimized. As Director Fontaine said, two very nice affordable units. And on the lot coverage, we don't disagree with the numbers that were shown, but some of the more interesting data is that of the 12 newest developments in Highland Park, the lot coverage ranges from 43% to 79%. And I think just traditionally, and I don't mean, I just think these types of projects are going to have more lot coverage. And I think that's why when you start looking at these statistics, whether it's 38% or 42% or higher, I think these projects just kind of call for that type of lot coverage. I also want to point out something that I think is also very significant, and the way the developer looks at these projects is, as of right, there can be 32 units. I don't think it would be as nice of a project, but as of right, you could have a much denser project. But going through the PUD and the Plan Design Commission process, I think it literally made the project better from the input, as I mentioned before, from all those who participated. Also, Director Fontaine mentioned the $100,000 donation. On the Wallbright, it's a bigger development, and the affordable units, I don't want to say weren't as, they were certainly nice affordable units, but these are extra nice. How's that if I say it that way? And the one thing about and I think Mr. Kyle Fell might comment a little more on the parking if you have some questions, but on the parking issue, they did specifically incorporate the potential impact of Wallbright. They did not include the train station, other benefits that I think we could take credit for in this development. So they, again, as Director Fontaine said, conservative numbers, and said that the Wallbright will not impact, let me say it differently. When you include the Wallbright and this development, there'll be no impact on traffic, parking, and those types of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Muller, and he'll answer or show you some more specific information. And we just want to thank you in advance for your consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
My name is Mark Mueller. I'm president of Fulton Developers. And joining me tonight is Kyle Fell, who we have worked closely on this project for quite some time. As most of you know, we have been developing projects in the North Shore for over 20 years. And Highland Park has always had a special place in that journey. Park Sheridan was recently completed on Sheridan Road across from the Art Center. The Wallbright is right now under construction. We anticipate completion by the end of the winter. One Highland Park was completed 2 or 3 years ago, just around the corner from the proposed site. The Walton will be our 7th multifamily building in Highland Park. Laurel Court Row Homes, that was our first multifamily project at the corner of Laurel Avenue and Hickory Street. Laurel Apartments, just east of the row homes. Laurel Residences was built a few years later, just further east, and all these projects help revitalize one of the key connections to the downtown in Highland Park. Over time, we've learned that quality, design integrity, and respect for the neighborhood context are what makes a project successful. We have been working, as Wixer mentioned, on the Walton for over 3 years. We purchased the first parcel in March of 2022 and completed the assembly last year. Since then, we have worked very closely with city staff and commissions, including 4 meetings with the Housing Commission and also 4 meetings with the Plan and Design Commission, refining the project at each stage. The Walton will be a 5-story residential building with 17 market rate units and 2 affordable units. It will include some shared amenities like a club room, fitness room, shared outdoor spaces with lounge and seating areas. There will also be an underground heated garage with storage and bike racks. Access to the garage has been located along the public alley on the west side of the building to minimize impact of the neighboring properties. As mentioned before, we could do 32 units by right, but we're proposing 19 to provide more green space, enhanced landscaping, and larger private areas, outdoor areas for the project. In regards to the height of the building, we are requesting a 5th story, which we feel is consistent with the other projects in the RO zoning district. The buildings that were shown in orange are buildings that have an equivalent height, and they are 5 stories, building 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sunrise is the only one that's 4 stories, but then it has another story, which is the roof, so it will be the equivalent in height and massing as a 5-story building. The Walton will be the only building out of the ones that we were showing in the prior slide that has a 5th floor step back. The code requires a 15-foot step back, but none of the other buildings have it. We are proposing more than double than they require, which is 33 feet. And that generous step back should make the building feel lighter and reduces the overall perceived height of a building. We have also increased the setback, which is 5 feet is the required. It will be the first vertical line on the left to 25 feet, which that opens up the streetscape and creates a more inviting pedestrian environment. For context, the 2 buildings just north on 2nd Street are also 5 stories. One of them, 1700 2nd Street, actually sits higher off the ground. It appears to be almost another story above the public sidewalk, and there's no step back on the top floor. So we feel the Walton will look more modest in scale. In regards to the lot coverage, we presented this exhibit showing the projects that have been approved in Highland Park over the last 15 years, and the average is 50%. Some of them are closer to 80%. All of the projects that we have done in Highland, not all of them, but most of the projects that we have done in Highland Park are in that 50% range as well. For the exterior materials, we're using cast stone and aluminum composite panels, which are both durable and low maintenance. We feel these materials are consistent with the timeless character of nearby buildings, such as the one that we are in right now, the City Hall, the public library, the train station. When we started the process, we did submit letters to over 300 neighbors. We did meet with 30 or 40 in the atrium of our office building. We did receive phone calls, emails. We've been working with the community for a very long time. And I feel that the feedback that we have received has been constructive and very thoughtful. And we have adjusted the project along the way. The public benefit was already mentioned in regards to the 100,000 contribution to the Housing Trust Fund, as well as making affordable housing units which are larger than required. We feel that these commitments reinforce our ongoing effort to create thoughtful, high-quality developments in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. You might want to stay up there. I think we might have a few more questions. And Elliot, I don't know if you want to join them or not. We have questions, so I think we might want to have you guys up there just to answer. Just in my reading, I'm just, again, no particular order. First of all, thank you for bringing this project to the downtown district. We know that from other buildings that have occurred, people are interested, people want to stay in the community, they want to age in the community, but they may not want to stay in their single-family homes, and you're providing them with a beautiful alternative. So thank you for doing that. I, in my reading, saw there was an issue with parking and ADA. Is that going to get resolved in the next iteration of what you are putting together? Or I don't know if this is a question for Joel.
That issue, that's the way the plans are presented. Right now, there are no issues. So there's,
Joel, wasn't there like a slightly undersized something going on with ADA parking? Is that resolved?
At one point, there was, they did provide revised plans, so I would have to double check, but they
You think
need
it's
to
okay?
comply
Okay.
to ADA, whichever. They do have enough parking, they actually exceed the minimum required, so I do think they'd be able to do it if they are not in those plans, and we'll have those for the final.
Great, thank you. Thank you for the step back of the 5th floor. I think that goes a long way to help reduce the sense of bulk. Do we have, again, I saw that there wasn't a tree preservation fence plan, Joel. Is that something that we have, or is that still coming?
They are seeking to remove a number of trees, and so the forester has reviewed that. Any trees that are preserved, they will need to have that as part of
That
their
fence
building
plan.
permit, process.
And they're final,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I couldn't tell, are the lights dark sky compliant?
yes, they are.
Thank you. Appreciate the transit-oriented development. This is one of our goals. I saw in the public comments, there was concern about the sightlines at 2nd and Walnut from the siting of the building and the plantings and the wall. Has that been addressed?
Yes, the 2 pinch points or the encroachments are less than 3 feet, so they do not violate the code in that way.
Okay. And as far as stormwater management, just want to get confirmation that that's been addressed or will be addressed in the final documents.
Yep, final engineering will have to address all stormwater management, and that is been addressed, yes.
There were several comments about the fence or the wall. Is that for privacy for the first floor tenants?
Yes, so we've done that privacy wall on prior buildings as well. I can briefly go over the Park Sheridan also has a privacy wall along the first floor units. We feel that it also brings the scale of the building down by, you have that lower wall than landscaping, so it's a nice way to bring like a human scale closer to the sidewalk. In the case of Park Sheridan, it's much closer to the public sidewalk, about 5 feet. In the case of the Walton, it's going to be closer to 25 feet, so those walls are going to be further back.
Great. Thank you.
We also have them at One Highland Park has the same privacy walls along the first wall, along the first floor.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the public benefit contribution to the Housing Trust Fund and for the design. I think the building is beautiful. I know my council colleagues have questions and comments, and we'll just go back and forth. So we'll start with Councilmember Bloomberg.
Thank you. I want to start by saying we've received a fair amount of communication from residents who are going to be affected by this. We've read the comments. My sense is the principal concerns are the size and bulk of this development and the impact that it's going to have on the location where you live, potential traffic issues. We have looked at those things. I'm not going to go into that too much, but I will be interested to hear the further comments about that. I do share the mayor's opinion about the appearance of the building. It's very attractive. It's consistent with the other developments that have been before us. A couple of quick questions. There's not much you can do about it right now, but generally, I think it would be a good idea when making these presentations in terms of bringing this to a more understandable level to the average resident are renderings such as this completely in situ. I do see sunrise in the background there. I would appreciate having seen a view down the street to see what's across the street in relationship to that building. If we come back, if it's not difficult, if that can be done, that might be helpful to sort of get a clear understanding of how that can affect the sense of place where the building is going to be. One concern that I do have in terms of the public benefit, and I do appreciate the contribution enormously, having previously been a liaison of the Housing Commission, I know they appreciate that too. The public benefit of the inclusionary units being larger and having certain amenities that aren't necessarily required, I don't really consider that to be a public benefit in the way that a public benefit, I think, should be considered. A public benefit should be for the community outside of the project itself. The fact that you're doing inclusionary zoning units and paying the full amount for the fractional unit, you have a long record of really solid contribution. You rarely ask to pay fees in lieu. Most of your buildings just meet on site with what they're required to do, and I appreciate that. And inclusionary zoning itself is a benefit to the community. But making a couple of units a bit bigger isn't a public benefit in the way that I think that term is intended. So if we can look at another way to fulfill that additional part of the obligation, I think that would be great. And that's sort of where I am on the project.
Thank you. Councilmember Lidward.
Okay, so also very beautiful, in keeping with all the things that you've done in this community. I think that's wonderful. A couple of things. So at first I was a little upset about the height, but then when I looked at the other buildings, I felt much better. But I do want to know whether in fact that includes mechanicals on top, and if in fact the other buildings have mechanicals on top, or how does that fit in, and what are the numbers with that?
There's a parapet wall along the perimeter, so the mechanicals are going to be hidden behind that parapet wall.
Okay, so, but is that higher than the 63 feet, I think we're talking about here? Or is that on the 5th floor?
The only mechanicals that we have on the roof are the compressors for the air conditioning units, and those are just 30 inches in height. And those are located right on top of the core of the building. They are more than 50 feet away from the property line, so they're not going to be visible from the street. And in addition, they're going to be screened.
They will be screened.
Correct.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. I completely concur with Councilmember Blumberg's comments about the inclusionary units. I think it's great. They're a couple feet larger. You're legally required, and I think it's wonderful that they're there, but I don't view that as a public benefit. So along those lines, I'm wondering what the difference is between this and the Wallbright as to why the public benefit, I'm sorry to be greedy here, is 100 instead of 150, like the one across the street.
We for the most part, we felt the Wallbright was a larger project, and that's the reason that this is a
third larger, just, sorry. Okay.
We could do, I mean, if it seems like if that's a concern, that's something we could work with the council to adjust that number.
That would be great. I really appreciate that. I just want to confirm, because I did a walkthrough, and I understand there are no heritage trees, but it seemed from your plans that all the trees that currently exist, which are very mature, big trees on the streetscape, meaning between the sidewalk and the curb, were going to remain?
Correct.
That's great. Okay, so that's in terms of the neighbors across the street who right now look at a very pretty green wall, even if the houses there are not lovely like this building will be. That green in the streetway?
In the right of way.
Parkway will remain?
Yes.
Okay, that's wonderful. I just wanted to confirm that. I also had down that Civil Tech had not commented, and I didn't see a traffic study that took into account additional traffic from the Wallbright, which I do believe will, I mean, I can't buy that it's a zero-sum factor there from the Walton. And then in addition to that, it didn't seem to take into account the new building, which doesn't yet have residents, obviously. Not faulting anybody, but you can do an anticipatory thing. And so I just want to make sure that whatever final traffic study does include those kind of numbers, so we know where we are on it.
So it does, originally it did not, and the one that we submitted this week does include the traffic generated by the Wallbright.
Okay.
And Kyle and myself, if you want Kyle to make a statement in that regards, that would be great.
Okay, thank you. Just like two more.
Hi, Kyle Fowl with Fulton Developers. So just taking into account our traffic study, our traffic consultant, KLLA, was unable to attend tonight, but we spoke with him earlier today and wanted to share just a brief update from that conversation that we had with them. The traffic study was revised at the request of the planning department to include the nearby Walbright development, and that update did not change the study's overall conclusions. It's important to note that the study took a very conservative approach that was mentioned earlier. It does not account for the 13 existing units that are on site right now. So when we're talking about like how many units are we really adding to this site, we're just adding about 6 units to that site specifically to the new site. So we're not, even with our new building, we're not increasing that traffic count much at all. It's such a small fraction of a decimal of increase on traffic. In addition, the study also didn't consider the proximity to the metro station where some people might be using the train, and therefore that's going to reduce traffic as well. But KOLA pointed that out to us. We want to be conservative. Let's just assume everybody takes their car from these buildings and no one takes the train. So they looked at it with that approach as well. It's a similar issue when we're looking at the under construction building Walbright as well. When we did those studies and when they took into that account, they assume every person in that building is going to be driving and not taking the train from those places as well. And although the zoning allows up to 32 units, our proposal is only 19. So we're even under what we could build there in that location. Again, you know, like almost doubling the amount of cars, but we're cutting that in half. And third, I'd just like to point out that the city's third-party traffic consultant has also reviewed all this information. They also have the new study as well that takes into account the Walbright. So we're currently and actively looking into that question as well. We want to make sure that we're standing on those numbers and we stand by them.
Great,
Thank
that's
you.
really helpful, thank you. I do want to say that in part, I feel like we as a city are somewhat responsible because the Walbright does have an entrance on Walnut, and here we are, kitty corner, and I know you'll have the parking in the back at the alley, but you will also have on Second Street, and even if it's a drive-through, an entrance. And so I think that at that corner where Second and Walnut come together, there could be additional. So I'm hoping that you will be very, very conservative and very accurate on that. Okay, so that was one. I do want to add that on your inclusionary, the 1 2-bedroom that you have in there, it is a 7-foot by 10-foot bedroom. That is a really small bedroom.
No, we don't have any rooms that are 7 feet by 10.
Okay, I just want to double check that, and that's what I had marked down, and that's what really upset me about it, so I just want to make sure that that second bedroom is not 7 by 10.
No, I don't think that would be allowed.
I would
by
love to make a
code.
mistake, because
Yes.
that's really, I was not happy with that.
Just a
My
clarification.
final comment is simply about FAR.
I just wanted to know if I may make a clarification, Madam Mayor?
Sure.
7 by 10 is allowed by building code.
Yeah.
That's just one. 2, I believe I do have a slide with the floor plans if the council wants to see.
Yeah, no, I thought I went through it carefully, but clearly I didn't. Okay, so my only last comment really has to do with FAR, and that is that you have built some beautiful, beautiful buildings, and I don't like to see this increased feeling of a loss of open space and green. So please make it airy and make it feel open if it's going to be that high, because it is much higher than our, 33%. And I know they've been going up, but they've been creeping up a lot. They really have.
Thank you. Councilmember Bloomberg had a point he wanted to add, and then Councilmember Tapia.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to what you mentioned about the public benefit and the amount of money that you've contributed in this instance compared to the amount of money you contributed relative to the Walbright. Public benefits are required in relation to the amount of relief from zoning that is sought. So a larger project, and the Walbright in particular had some unique zoning issues. So a greater public benefit was required, and I think that's part of the reason that more money was contributed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Tapia?
Yeah, I also had a chance to look around the neighborhood and really take into account the comments offered by the residents that I read carefully. I know there's concerns about the height, but comparing it to the height of the other comparable buildings or, that are similar there in that street, I don't see much difference. So they were given variances, and you're asking for a variance, but it didn't seem out of whack, and actually it's pretty much the same height. Plus you have that's the setback on the 5th floor. So I really looked at that carefully, but I couldn't see how that was different from what is already there in the neighborhood. So I don't have a concern about that. I am concerned about the open space, to actually Councilmember Littleworth's point. And, I know you've sort of built it out and all that, but, we always have an ongoing dilemma and paradox between wanting more density and yet preserving our green spaces. So I don't have a specific recommendation about how you shape up more green spaces, but as you're, tugging and pulling on different things that you could modify, if you can sort of generate a way to have more green space or the appearance of greater green space, I think that would be very, very welcome. I want to take advantage of this moment to say that outside of this project, one concern I have with your wonderful developments here, because they are enhancing to the community architecturally and providing that needed housing, is because they're higher end, they need to be bigger, and they need to be, higher ceilings. And what you consider a feature, fewer units than, you put in fewer units than we would allow, we would allow more units, in other words. And that's the dilemma, right? Because that actually is not necessarily a benefit for the city when we are trying to create more density, meaning more residents. And more units you have, the more inclusionary units we will have. So as you push the number of units down, it actually kind of works contrary to having more residents here and all the benefits come with that. And I'm especially concerned about that means fewer inclusionary housing units. So it's not relevant to this project. I mean, this project, it is what it is right now, aside from some tweaks. But it's something that I would ask that your team take into account, that does not necessarily it's not necessarily a benefit that they are more spacious and therefore fewer units.
We were just making reference to the benefit in regards to traffic.
Sure, but in general, I think your units tend to be bigger and for the square footage that the buildings stand on.
That's a response to the market.
I know.
We feel that we need to build what the market is asking, and whenever we try to do units that are smaller, they don't sell.
Yeah, and I respect that. I just, the thing about dilemmas and paradoxes is that let's put the question on the table, let's test it and see if we can sort of find some alternatives.
Thank you. Councilmember Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. And I also want to add that I appreciate the written comments we received, and I am quite certain we all read them all. And I thank Fulton for the $100,000 public benefit, even as I appreciate the offer to adjust it higher. And I was actually going to ask, I hope that community development can consider asking for more than it seems like it's more typically 15, or no, am I wrong about that? It's usually a lower number, so I'll have to get my facts straight on that. Well, in terms of the dollar amount no, I'm, okay.
The dollar amounts per unit are set
It's-
within our.
I see.
It's in the housing code.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, then I stand corrected. I was going to say, I don't consider the larger size affordable units a public benefit, in part because it may have been easier to stack the units on the floors rather than build different size units, and it's also not, by definition, your definition, a public benefit. But I do appreciate that, they are larger. And to Councilmember Bloomberg's point, when you talked about the rendering, including more of the context, I would love to see the Woolbright included in that context rendering. I think that would be important to see. And I appreciate that you've found a way to build high-quality condominium housing in Highland Park. and appreciate that you're doing multiple projects and choose to invest in our city. My concern is for future projects to not look, and I've mentioned this before, so similar. They have a certain, I'm going to call it slightly monolithic look. And this is more concerning to me because Wallbright and the Walton are across the street from one another. And so that's my concern for a future project, really, that especially when you're building development so close to one another, that it not start to look all, the same. And I think some of the public comment talked about brick. I think, it would be reasonable to consider Roman brick, which was, brick was mentioned in written public comment. As I said, it has a more elegant look, although I assume you're using stone than a typical brick. And I assume you're using stone because it's less expensive to build with larger pieces rather than labor-intensive brick. And yeah, so that, I think that is my main comment. I'm certainly not going to argue with trying to find more, open green space. But my concern is that the buildings not start to look the same as much as it's great that you're building in Highland Park, that especially when they're close together, but even if they're not close together, that there not be this, that there's some diversity in appearance. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bruckman.
Thank you. First off, thank you again for presenting this beautiful project and for enhancing our downtown area with, more put on us, more street traffic and feet on people able to walk from place to place in town, and which is great. So thank you again for that. A few questions I have though is, what steps will you be taking to mitigate construction noise and dust, especially given that it's a narrow street from Walnut to Second for surrounding businesses and families when you start the construction?
So when we do demolition, there's guidelines that we need to follow in Highland Park. We need to apply water during the demolition process. When we start as soon as we're done with the foundation of the building, that's taken care of by just a single trade. And once we're done with the foundation, typically we've been able to have many of the workers park underground to try to minimize traffic nearby. And if we need more workers, they've been able to ride, to share the ride, to try to minimize traffic nearby. So for the most part, try to use the building on site as soon as we're done with the foundation and the precast over the foundation, which is just one trade on site.
If I can say one more thing as well. Just something that we'd be doing differently, and you mentioned dust. And we've been talking with, our contractors that are on site, like how can we reduce the amount of dust that is produced, especially from the cementitious materials like the mortar and other things. Currently, right now on site with Wallbright, we have something that kind of looks like an inverted cone. And we're doing all the mixing inside this hopper of a sort. And that's keeping down a traumatic amount of dust that was previously produced when we were doing mortar mixing on site. We're going above and beyond, especially when we're blowing in cellulose and insulation into these buildings. And we're making sure we're covered up in multi-layers of different things that are going on. But those are just some of the issues, and we're constantly bringing that up, especially safety and sound and noise and dust with all of our contractors on site.
Oh, great, thank you. And then, in addition, another question I had was, how does this project's design ensure walkability and connectivity for families, providing safe routes to schools, the metro station, nearby parks with this design?
The building has an accessible entrance and the main entrance off of 2nd Street. And then there's a secondary entrance along the west side of the building, along the alley side, which is intended for guests. And then based on the location, we trust that everyone is going to enjoy and move here because they want to be within walking distance to the downtown. which is the biggest trade on most of our projects. We're not doing projects by the highway. We're not doing projects that have 300 units. We're doing smaller boutique projects with that walkable factor to the downtown.
Great, so you do incorporate it, sounds like, so thank you. And then one last comment or question. When we mentioned the public benefit, have you considered EV chargers, or will there be EV chargers for this building?
Yes, there will be. What we've been doing on this building and on para buildings, we have been putting larger electrical panels in each unit, and then we run a conduit directly from the unit to the garage, and that way it's just like a house. They don't need to rely on the condo association, slide a credit card, reimburse the homeowners association. They're just running electricity from their own unit to the garage. And then on the upper floors, once the runs start getting a bit too long, we have additional meters, and we've been able to work that out with ComEd, so they can give us additional meters, knowing that some of the owners on the top floors, we need that additional load.
And that, would the EV chargers be available not just to residents, but people visiting, or?
Those will be inside the underground garage, so they're just going to be for the residents of the building.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cedric?
Thanks. Mark and team, thanks for bringing another beautiful proposed project to Highland Park. Really appreciate you being here again. And thanks to the residents for all their comments. I know the rest of the council has made that same comment, but it is true. We read all of them, and I think it's such an important part of the process to make sure that these projects are really thoughtful and consider sort of, everybody that's potentially impacted. So thanks for your comments, and thanks for being here today. Just a couple of quick follow-up questions. This might be more for city staff. Do we know why do we know what the one no vote was from PDC? Sort of the rationale for that?
Commissioner Henry did vote no. He didn't state a reason at time of vote.
I spoke to
There are
Commissioner
generally
Henry
concerns
today.
of,
Yeah, I called Commissioner Henry today, and he had concerns about the bulk and the height.
Okay, thank you. And appreciate, we talked about that a little bit already tonight, and I think very thoughtful design to try to circumvent or alleviate some of those concerns. So appreciate that, I guess in response to maybe that concern and that Commissioner Henry brought up, as well as other residents as well. I largely echo the sentiments of council as it relates to the public benefit as well. I had the same reaction with respect to the inclusionary housing unit square footage being counted as a public benefit. And as I sort of listened to the discussion up here and also heard, Councilmember Tapia talk about sort of how we can incorporate green space a little bit more. I just wonder if there is some type of public green space benefit that could be worked into this project. And I too don't have what that solution might be, but would love for you guys to take a good look at that as a alternate additional public benefit to what's being proposed. That's all I've got.
Great, thank you. Is there any comment from the public that you would like to share? Please come forward, line up. We'll ask for your name. You don't need to give us your address. And as is our tradition rule, comments are limited to 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Leslie Jaffe. I live at 1633 2nd Street. I am on the southeast corner of the building, so I have faced the Woolbright's building. It has been very noisy and very dusty, and at 7:20 this morning, they were exceptionally loud. So noise and dust is a huge concern that I've had throughout the summer. My other big concern is with the percentage of lot coverage. As I've asked the city employee to show up your slide of the neighborhood percentage of lot coverage, as you can see, their lot coverage will be considerably larger than anything in the neighborhood. Though Highland Park, as they've stated, has gone to higher lot coverage, it is not true in our neighborhood. And the other concern with that is the environmental concern, and that we haven't seen the stormwater impact reports. That's our other concern for flooding and flooding control when we start to increase larger lot coverage. So I just wanted to express that and hope the city going forward will consider the trend of increasing lot coverage and the environmental impact in our community. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
My name is Beth Russell. I live at 1633 Second Street. The Walton project, with its proposed variances, doesn't provide an adequate compensatory public benefit. Beyond the affordable housing inclusionary benefit required, Fulton has offered $100,000 to the Housing Fund. With their Woolbright project, Fulton provided $150,000. Has the cost of compensating for unnecessary variances to city codes deflated in Highland Park? The surrounding condominium buildings all have generous park-like green space, and the Woolbright has a lot coverage of 49%, open space of 31.4%. The Walton's going to have 21% open space. Both are much less than the surrounding buildings. And will Fulton's lack of providing less green space now become a trend with the new Highland Park building, the new buildings in Highland Park? Is $100,000 adequate to create an entirely new type of bulky development that will overwhelm this narrow and charming sector of Highland Park forever? The mature ginkgo trees on the North Parkway of Walnut next to this projected site have all been tagged as part of the developer's tree inventory and surveys. There are very tall, mature oaks and huge lindens in front of the proposed site that are on Second Street. They're not tagged. Are those going to be taken down to accommodate a cut-in for a parking space? They're beautiful trees. It would be sad for Highland Park to lose that. Why are they not included in the developer's inventory, and will these trees be removed? Losing more greenery just to enhance a building is an injustice to all. We are known as a tree city, but if these are removed, it will make us look more like River North in Chicago, more like a condo canyon. The scale of the building will overshadow our street and will look severely out of place. The Woolbright is 4 stories, and it's taller than the Arbor's 5-story buildings. The Walton is proposed at 5 stories, and even with its setbacks, it is oversized with asking for an additional 13 feet over code height. We understand building sizes, styles change, but there is no public benefit when those who live nearby are left with a monstrosity with less than city code required green space to compensate for that. We understand Mr. Mueller has a business, but does one really need to have 10 and 12-foot ceilings to sell a condo? What about the air conditioning and the heating? It will go to moderate temperatures in those spaces. The city's website says Highland Park is proactively striving to become an even greener and more sustainable community. It doesn't sound like this building will be part of that as approved and as requested. Please hear and consider our concerns. Where is the true public benefit?
Thank you.
I'm Dale Cahotis. I also live at 1633 Second Street. Fulton Developers has an impressive number of projects in Highland Park. They are well acquainted with the code, zoning, and permitting process. A pattern has emerged in their recent designs. It appears Fulton expects to receive multiple variances and offer less public benefit and compensation. The height of the proposed Walton project exceeds the RO code of 51 feet by 13 feet. The lot coverage is also over maximum. Rather than offering open green space, the building is designed to leave. There's only a small amount of coverage. $100,000 has been offered as a public benefit, less than Fulton has offered for other buildings. It is my understanding that some of the mature trees are to be protected in the Walton design, but Fulton's record regarding protecting the heritage trees at the Walbright and One Highland Park leaves me concerned. Just a few weeks ago, the Walbright heritage tree was trimmed in a manner that led to citations to the developer, and the heritage tree in front of One Highland Park showed signs of stress right away and had to be removed. What can we expect for the mature trees on the Walton property, even though they've promised to be protected? I urge you to send Fulton developers back to the drawing board to come up with a design that respects the city's code. Please do not approve the project as presented. It is out of scale and character for our neighborhood. Change is still possible. Please come to our neighborhood and take a look at Fulton Developers Walbright on Walnut, and just a few steps away where the Walton is planned. We see our future, and we ask you to come and see why the neighbors are so concerned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Thisson. I live at 1633 Second Street in the Arbors. I'm a recent type 1 diabetic, and I get real dry while I speak, so I'm going to try to speak as absolutely fast as I can. Oh, there we go. I am here for the strong concerns for public safety surrounding the newest proposed Fulton project. Point one, the traffic study, as has been mentioned, submitted by the developer, has a glaring omission that needs attention before any approval due to inaccuracy, which puts residential community at risk, including a large senior population of pedestrians. This is that we have not included the approximately 100 or so new residential people who will be living between the Walton and the Walbright. The addition of 48 new cars that would congest traffic coming from the proposed Walton project when it becomes inhabited. So how can the village safely rely on traffic studies? I know they mentioned conservative, but right now I've been walking in front of that Metro for the past 8 years, and since COVID, it has gone down quite a bit. I also have a partner who travels it, and it is not as used as it was. So I don't think it will be just because there is a brand new huge building next to it. Walton's garage is set up off center to 2nd Street. It directly moves its traffic right into the Walnut place, a senior living, which is double parking and includes an hourly bus, Highland Park bus for senior residents. My neighbor Val, who is new into the building, is 85 and pulled me aside and asked me if I would ask you guys to consider the senior bus that frequently stops. It's filled with Walnut Place residents needing their time to get out of this bus in a double lane that is going to be pointing from a narrow alley behind the new Walton right into a place where a bus has to double park. And she's been in that bus when the buses had to call the police to ask for cars to move. It is a more narrow street than Laurel, which is the street that I was as a resident hit by both a car that didn't stop at a stop sign and almost killed, and also I was hit with my aging golden retriever just last year by a car that did not stop. So I know what it's like to not have to people who are compliant. There are no stop signs going east or west on Walnut. Walnut has a Catholic church right there at the corner at Green Bay, which is a hill that goes down and you speed fast. And if there's a bus in a 23-foot road versus the Laurel, almost twice the size, people go around it, and now they're going to be coming and meeting the people coming up from the Woolbright garage, not just the congestion that is behind the new Walton garage, which itself is narrow. So I just really would like there to be consideration of all the people who welcome new progressive developments into our community, but also take into account Highland Park's bylaws on heights and greenery and especially safety, because I feel, given the population of pedestrians that are there, we are setting ourselves up if we don't put in stop signs, at least on Walnut, as safeguards for more injuries than just myself has had. So thank you for letting me talk longer.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dennis Siegel. I also live at 1633. I have submitted my comments in writing already. I think what is more relevant to the greenery concept and the bulk that we're all concerned with is actually having you view this beautiful block that we have that's within walking distance of the downtown area and is just magnificent for those of us who've grown old and walk to the downtown area. The fact that the two buildings, the Walton and the Woolbright, are of similar style also is a concern because they are unlike any of the other condo buildings on our block. And though they've made a big issue out of the fact that the 5th floor is set back so that you don't notice the bulk from the street, those of us who live across the street on the 4th and 5th floor of 1633 are staring at it and will be staring at it all the more. And one of the most objectionable things to me is to be looking at those horrendous looking black metal horizontals versus the limestone, which at least is gray. Instead of seeing a beautiful blue sky, we'll be looking at these black horizontals, and basically you're being told that from the street they're set back so it doesn't matter. Well, it matters to us who are living there. What I want to pass around are photos that I took myself just the other day, giving you an idea, because I think only Mrs. Lodauer actually has walked the 16 to 1700 block of 2nd Street.
We all have. I'm pretty
Have you all
confident
walked
that, yeah, you may not have seen us, but
Okay.
I've been there twice. I think everybody on this group has taken the time to look.
I would still like to pass around the
That's fine,
pictures if I
thank you.
may.
Please give them to the clerk.
Okay.
Thank you.
And they're labeled for each of the buildings. The one that's really of primary concern is looking at the Woolbright, which has been under construction now for probably 2 years, with all of the horrendous noise that goes on, and early morning starts and traffic and beeps and everything else. The fact is that you passed and agreed to all the variances for the Woolbright. And if you go back and you look at it right now, it is totally oversized. It is out of character with the rest of our beautiful neighborhood. And in fact, the existing building, a brick building at the corner of First and Walnut, on the angle that has been cut off by the construction of the Woolbright, what you've allowed in what you granted here for the Woolbright is a building on the corner that is virtually destroyed at this point. It has very little value because it is surrounded by this oversized building. And that was very unwise. And I would like you to consider that you are now in the process of possibly allowing, again, something much too large, too dense for our neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel. Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to be heard? This would be the time to come forward. Okay. Curious to know how the council wishes to proceed at this point. Councilmember Tapia.
I mean, it just, I think there's a theme here about desire for more green space or open space without knowing how exactly recommending how that should happen. But I think that has come up quite a bit here, and it's been one of the key things from the neighbors. And the other one was about the public benefit. Seems like there seems to be a majority here feeling like it's inadequate in some way or another without necessarily having declared what it would make it to be adequate. So, I don't know if we want to make a recommendation on that. I like Councilmember Center's tying in these two topics of more green space and public benefit. Again, I don't know if there's a way through that. And it might even be an offset thing where my green space might happen, maybe not in the building itself, but very near it, depending on what they own and don't own. But there's some movement there to maybe address those two things.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilmember Lou.
I think I'd like to make the motion, or I think we should move to ask for additional findings and move forward with this, but with those caveats or recommendations, if that's appropriate.
So the motion would be to direct approval documents for final consideration. Councilmember Bloomberg?
You could do that, and we could put some specific requirements that have to be met before it becomes a final consideration. But before we do that, the developer, the applicant has heard some of the concerns. I wonder if you want to address those at this point?
I think that's great.
Yep.
So the public benefit it should be in relation to the relief we're seeking, and we are assuming you're in favor of the project. We would welcome that recommendation, and we could come forward at the next meeting with a proposal, which right now I'm not sure exactly what it could be, but we need to think about it, to increase the green space, whether it be on site or make a proposal off-site on a specific location. We could potentially have conversations with Director Fontaine about anything the city might be looking somewhere else. So we're looking to make that a condition subject to your approval.
Okay, I think for me, I would be comfortable going ahead with a motion. My suggestion, echoing what I've heard from my colleagues, is a public benefit that recognizes, in addition to the contribution you're making, which is not insignificant. I want to recognize that. I know it's not as much as you contributed for the Wallbright, but in terms of the number of units you have and the fact that you are paying a fractional unit as an obligation, $100,000 towards inclusionary zoning off-site is a significant public benefit. I want to acknowledge that. But because of the loss of green space, if you may find an opportunity to create green space as a public benefit off-site, I would be interested to hear that, since you may not be able to reduce the size of the building. Alternatively, understanding that the number of variances you're seeking may not be great, but because one of those variances does significantly impact green space, whatever public benefit you come up with maybe should acknowledge that as something a little bit more than just the value of the enlarged inclusionary units, if that provides you some guidance.
Yes, thank you.
So if you're comfortable with that, I'm going to make a motion that we Move to direct the preparation of documents for the preliminary approval of the project, subject to our approval of the public benefit.
It's the final.
Is it final?
It's combined preliminary and final. They did ask for
Okay, I didn't quite understand that as we, all right, for the preliminary and final project, subject to approval of the public benefit and green space.
And I'd second that.
Any further discussion from the council?
I do have one comment. I like the creativity about talking about the green space in another place, and I think that's really wonderful. But I do have to say, I've heard loud and clear from these neighbors
Right.
about how important it is on their street and on this site.
Right.
And so while I like your creative thinking as a Highland Parker in general, because this is project-specific, I would really like you to look most closely at doing it in our neighborhood there.
Great. Thank you. With that, I'll ask the clerk to call the vote.
Councilmember Center?
Aye.
Councilmember Bruckman?
Aye.
Councilmember Ross?
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia?
Aye.
Councilmember Littlewood?
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg?
Aye.
Mayor Rotering?
Aye, that's 7 ayes, no nays, and this item will return with preliminary and final documents with potential changes for consideration at a future council meeting.
Yeah, we'll have that, Mayor. Thank you. And we do have some feedback from the council on that, which is helpful. We'll work with staff and the applicant to see if we can arrive at a benefit that would be reflected in the final document. So it'll be all teed up if we're able to reach accord based on our understanding of the council's direction tonight.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Item 12C is proposed Lake Cook Road Path, the Lake Cook Department of Transit project. Thank you. Okay,
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you.
I am Gita Newkirk. I'm the city manager. I do not represent the Lake County Division of Transportation, but I am here today, as well as our Public Works Director, Ron Bannon, to present for your consideration a Lake County Division of Transportation project. There's no formal vote being requested this evening, but the county is seeking council feedback pertaining to this proposed project. There's a staff report that's included in the packet. We have a couple of slides that we want to share with you, and then open for your feedback and discussion. So this project was started a couple of years ago by Lake County. It is an approximately $10 million project. It would be constructed by Lake County, and consistent with other agreements, upon completion, we would enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the county, whereby the city of Highland Park would oversee then maintenance of this pathway. The project location is Lake Cook Road, a construction of a path on the north side of the street. On the east side, it's about Turnbull Woods Court, and then on the west side going to Skokie Boulevard. And again, this proposed path is on the north side of the street. As part of the county's review process, they have had a number of meetings with impacted property owners. They've communicated with Cook County Department of Transportation, the Chicago Botanic Gardens, Illinois Department of Transportation, and then of course had just general public information meetings to get feedback as part of this process. So based on the public engagement, and I want to just give you kind of some numbers in terms of overall public feedback. So they had an interactive map. They got 560 responses to that. They conducted a survey, received 745 responses. They had a meeting where there were 87 attendees and then 46 written comments. And so that feedback was done last year. Overall, they did hear majority of individuals in response to this proposed project were in support of a path. They identified a path for safety reasons, for connectivity. This proposed project does coincide with our Move HP plan, so it is consistent with initiative that we've looked at in the past as a city. It provides good connectivity, and you can see kind of all the reasons that were outlined there as well as in the staff report. They also looked extensively at different alternatives to this proposed path. Most notably, and I know Councilmember Litterer and I had a couple of conversations about the feasibility of looking at the path on the south side. And they looked at north side, south side, looked at different widths as well as locations where the proposed path would go. And so what is being proposed for kind of all the different criteria that are listed on there, they are proposing it on the north side. So a good question, though, to ask, just given the number of residential properties on the north side, is why aren't they looking at it on the south side? So this was shared with the city council last week, but again, just want to highlight bullet points of just all the different environmental impacts, safety impacts, as well as additional cost considerations of why the north side is the preferred location. So here is just kind of a bullet point of factors. It's also important to note that through the stretch of this corridor, there are 2 bridges, there's floodplain, and 4 traffic signals. So there's a lot happening in this proposed location, and they did do a comprehensive evaluation, which ultimately their recommendation is the north side improvement. They also looked at the location of where the path would go, and they are, you can see kind of on the images there, the existing locations, reducing the footprint of the vehicular aisles. They still meet regulations, but having a minimum 8-foot path would be closer to the street to minimize impact on neighbors, but it does make the street more narrow. So you can see there, it is a highly traveled street. I mean, everyone recognizes that from, average daily traffic counts, as well as just different pedestrian and cyclists in the area. But overall, they felt that this was the safest, most preferred option, just given all the vehicles, pedestrians, as well as cyclists in the area. In terms of next steps, again, they're looking for the city's feedback on this proposed project. So our recommendation is that we would follow up with them with either you support it, do you support it with conditions, do you not support it with conditions? We'd follow up with them accordingly, and then they're going to continue working on design plans. They'll continue with the public engagement. We'll certainly stay in contact with them and communicate as well to our residents and businesses in the area. And then you can see ultimately would be just final plans, and then ultimately, if it is constructed, it would we would bring back formally an IGA with Lake County, and then we would take over maintenance of that. But again, I want to stress in terms of the city, it's not our construction project, and it doesn't cost us anything. So it's Lake County dollars. We're sensitive to anyone's dollars being spent, but it is important that it doesn't hit our financial bottom line. And with that, open it up for questions.
Great, thank you so much. And I have to share my history with this stretch, and that is that my dad was the one who got the sidewalk installed in the 60s after seeing children walking to Brayside in the near dark on the edge of the road. So
oh my goodness.
I'm happy to have this sidewalk get widened. This is, I think, very needed to improve safety, and especially, I'd mentioned this before, ADA accessibility, particularly crossing the highway. It's always been a bit of a challenge, and you always feel as though cars may or may not see you. So if this improves the ability to make that crossing and to continue from the McClory path over to the Skokie path, I don't know when they plan to continue that south, but at least it's a great addition to the non-vehicular connectivity of the community. One question that I do have a serious concern about is, the road does narrow, and I recognize that this is starting at Turnbull Woods and heading west. So on those days that the Chicago Botanic Garden traffic is backed up past the highway, or a big night on Ravinia where we're now kind of squeezing that third lane in, what's the impact going to be on that traffic? And is there anything that we can do to mitigate? Because it gets backed up pretty badly over there.
Yeah, that's a good question, Mayor. I know that the lane widths will go down to a minimum of 11 feet. So,
and it's 11, 11, 11, where there's theoretically, and how does it, it'll only change though going west of Turnbull, right?
Yeah.
Or will there be a shift
that
anywhere?
That is correct, because they have a center median that's throughout the corridor there. They can use that distance or that narrowing of those lanes to make up the space in the right-of-way. So they're really using that space to not impact any residential properties. So they're keeping the parkways basically the same, 5-foot buffer and then 8-foot path on the north side. So signal improvements throughout. So I would say as far as that goes, perhaps some signal enhancements to keep traffic moving.
Great. Because I got to say, the addition of the path on the Cook County side was just a total game changer. And now to have that controlled signal crossing to then head to the north is a great idea. And I agreed with you because I filled out the questionnaire and I was like, why not in the south? Get rid of, all the conflicts with the driveways, but apparently that's not an option. So I welcome this tremendously. Councilmember Littleworth.
Having said that, I completely agree with Mayor on most of it. I'm completely supportive of this in terms of connectivity and a bike path, and I think there's a real need. I also know that the way it currently is set up, it appears that we would go from this wonderful path on the south side and cross to the north at the Botanic Gardens, basically just east of the Botanic Garden entrance, right? And part of what is so wonderful about the path currently on the south side is that instead of the wetlands, it's elevated.
Right, it just goes through the woods.
So it goes through the woods, it meanders, and it's elevated, and it's okay for bikes, and it connects, and it's wonderful. And asphalt's expensive, and this is a $10 million project. So one of the I completely support this, but one of the things I would like to see questioned, because I know how upset they are about this, but before we go and perhaps lose some trees, before we narrow our street, before we really, I'm very worried about those houses. I know the way I fly down Lake Cook Road on that bike, sorry to admit that, and I love that, but that doesn't mean that I know there's no houses there. I know there's no driveway.
On the south side.
So on the south side, I feel perfectly safe. But when we cross over, even though it'll be a wider sidewalk, it's still, there's a house, there's a house, there's a house until you get to the highway. So my thought would be to look into having a similar south side elevated wood bike path that crosses to the north, either right before the highway and the bridge, so we don't have that additional problem, because it seems that that's a huge expense, or doesn't cross at all to the north. But to me, the best would be just to continue south and just have the full connectivity. But if we have to cross to the north, I'd rather see it further west, so that in fact we don't have to both narrow the road. And I appreciate the effort that's been made to preserve people's private land, and I like the wider sidewalk, to your point. But to take away, that street is busy. And frankly, there are reports in there, if you look at the tag report, from the cars and the increased number of traffic there is. So to narrow that, to me, seems incredibly short-sighted.
The narrowing actually slows traffic in that regard. So, there is a safety element just in narrowing that. When people have narrower lanes, they tend to drive slower. And so that's one aspect of that. They did look at the south side. They explored 6 different options, crossing at all different locations. The south side has greater tree impacts, more mature trees. There's wetland concerns, and there's some environmental concerns with like endangered species, perhaps. Yes, but even with that, to come through there's also some utility issues. So they did look at it, and
Can they look at it a little more?
yeah, I think.
Well, well, that's okay. And what we could do is, if the council, I guess preferably would like to see it on the south side, understanding all these factors, we could certainly include that in there. But I think the policy question is, again, because they've done an exhaustive look. So they're going to say, we've looked at it, we hear you, but we've looked at it. Are you going to support a north side path? So understanding you may support it on the south side, the question is still what they are proposing right now. Do you support it on the north side?
With the caveat that we'd really prefer it on the south.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Right. But we appreciate the project.
Yeah, I think that, I don't want to speak for county, but they're going to say that they did review that. And we've been, like I said, they started with 6, they narrowed it to 3. and then down to this one. This is their option at this point. So what they're looking for from the council is consensus. They want to move forward from this conceptual plan, I mean, they've already invested many dollars in this project. They want to start design, and they want to hold public meetings and let the people know that Highland Park and Lake County are partnering. You know, we're in a partnership and we're in agreement with this approach. What they don't want is to roll out the next phase of this, showing the north side, and then Highland Park says, well, wait a minute, we're not going to be okay with this.
Right.
There's one other point.
Sure, and then I know other people want to be.
I'm sorry, the only other point I just want to be on the record is at least questioning. I don't believe this is all Lake County. I believe 20% of this project is Lake County and 80% is federal. And as much as I know the money's not our concern, I do think it's necessary that we clarify for the public record that it is not just a Lake County project, it's federal dollars.
My understanding is that at this time, it's all Lake County dollars. They feel that this may be eligible for some type of a reimbursement given the nature of the project, but right now it's Lake County, an investment of $10 million of Lake County dollars.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bloomberg?
I'd like to say that I am unequivocally in favor of it. With respect to the funding, I would be concerned about counting on federal dollars at this period in history. I'm also a little concerned about advocating to put it on the south side, which is Cook County. I don't know that Lake County really is willing to fund a development like this in Cook County.
Yeah.
So with that said, and I appreciate your preference, but this is what's before us, and I'm delighted with it.
Councilmember Tapia?
Well, I'm supportive of it, so I'm ready for us to vote once everybody comments.
Councilmember Ross?
Thank you. I also had questions about the south side because there are no houses on the south side. And I want to ask, has TAG and staff considered the safety? I mean, I assume you have, but the safety issue of the driveways. There are cyclists who won't use a bike lane that is interrupted by driveways because the road, the cyclists have the right of way, whereas a homeowner can just pull out, back out. And so it's going to be interrupted cycling for some of the more serious cyclists. And so that's my question, because it is a safety issue having driveways.
Yeah, there are 5 driveways impacted. 2 of those are double driveways, so if you want to count those twice, but there's 5 homes, I should say, that have crossings there. When they study that, they do look at how many different pedestrian vehicle interactions there are, and this north side provides the lower number than the south side. If you stayed on the south side and kept it all the way through, the ramps that they have to cross, like the southbound ramp, sees a lot more traffic. So basically, what I'm saying is that on the north side, even with the driveways, that's the lowest number of pedestrian vehicle interactions and at low speeds.
A follow-up to my question is did you consider not widening the sidewalk, but simply, putting a painted bike lane in for those 4 feet of that you know what I'm saying?
Yes. I think the path connectivity that they're looking for is, I think they were looking for like an 8-foot mixed-use path to connect those to that North Trail and the Skokie Valley.
And the reason I ask is because, again, there's a right-of-way on, I think some cyclists anyway consider that safer just being road because they have the right-of-way there.
Yes. Yeah, I think when you talk to the serious cyclists, and I know we have one here, they're not going to, they may not use that path at all.
Right,
They're going to prefer to stay in the traffic, but this 8-foot path, for the less experienced cyclists, for children, for strollers, so I think it's mixed-use path.
I had to ask, I just wanted to ask the question because I overall, support this as well. But there are safety issues on the other side.
Sure. And there are 2 bridges. I would say one bridge is ours and the other is IDOT. And what they have to do is put in a partition wall to protect the people as they cross those bridges. So it is a significant investment, a significant project.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Brookman.
Thank you. I'm in favor of this. I think this is a has the potential to connect neighborhoods safely, continue, and then I just think about now my son Braden, it gives him an easy, safe passage to the other east side of the highway to go to his friends' houses. So I'm definitely in favor of this, so thank you.
Great. Councilmember Center?
I don't have any further comments. I'm supportive. I'll just comment quickly, I guess, on the houses and the driveways, and I recognize that that's challenging for both the cyclists and concerning for the homeowners. I mean, I think we can make that argument on a lot of roads in a lot of different places throughout the community. And I think we just all need to be cognizant of that, and hopefully they'll get.
And be careful.
And be careful, yeah. But yeah, I think it's exciting to be able to hopefully see this move forward and improve our overall ability to support a bike-friendly community.
Great, thank you. Any members of the public wanting to be heard on this?
Hi, Mark Portman, 40-year resident of, actually owner of, in a home in Highland Park. And I'm in the minority, obviously, I can see that right away. But I appreciate all the comments from the staff. I appreciate Geeta's comments. I especially appreciate the comment that you made at the end, or the reference that was made at the end about the so-called bicycle clubs. They are not going to be using this. There's no way. This, in my opinion, and I realize it's not a Highland Park project. I realize it's being funded by Lake County. By the way, I've had 2 separate conversations with the 2 different project managers on this from Lake County Department of Transportation, and both have said it's going to be 20% funded by Lake County, 80% funded by federal government. Now, I don't know how those federal funds are managed, okay, but there must be some kind of already, they believe, maybe funds that have already been set aside. So I would also question the whether or not the federal funds would be forthcoming, given the circumstance of what's happening in Washington these days. But nevertheless, 2 project managers have told me that. They've also told me that they would consider doing the project on the south side, the extension, if you will, of the North Branch. They would consider that because in their mind, they still have a little bit of a project connecting whatever happens when it gets over Skokie Boulevard, and they would have to create a little bit of an extension to get to the Skokie Bike Trail, Valley Trail, whatever they call it. So they consider this to be a connectivity as well, and they would go forth with the project, keeping in mind that Cook County would also have a similar project going south from Lake Cook Road. So I think they view it as being part and parcel to a community effort, if you will. I have to say, I think this is a disaster waiting to happen. The one thing that's lacking in the staff report was the average daily volume of vehicle traffic, automobiles, trucks, buses, emergency vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. 114,000 average daily, 15,000 to 17,000 average daily volume compared to bicyclists and pedestrians, 140. Let's think about that. That's 100-to-1 ratio. I don't know who this is going to serve. I really don't. And if the concept is to get more bicyclists and more pedestrians walking in this particular area, that's just going to create more congestion to an unbelievably this has got to be the most congested zone, if you will, traffic zone in all of southern Lake County. It's just, and I go to Botanic Gardens every Thursday, and every Thursday I walk by there and I say, oh my God, this is just a disaster waiting to happen. But I appreciate your listening, and thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I make one comment to Mark? Mark, I think the problem with the ratio that you just mentioned was that is current state, right? In terms of the denominator. There's not a lot of people riding their bikes there because there's not a safe place for them to do it.
Oh, I agree with that. And what I was saying was, given the fact that you've already got 14,000 to 15,000 vehicles, that's not going to go down. Those vehicles are not going to go down. The pedestrians and the bicyclists will go up. And when you look at that map, I'm not worried. I personally am not, and I appreciate you letting me talk. I'm not worried about the, everything leading up to the Skokie River, the on-ramps and the off-ramps on 41. And then now that you think you've already, been successful on your trip, now you've got to get across Skokie Boulevard. Those are, and the volume of traffic over there is unbelievable. So I think it's a disaster, personally. I think it's a disaster waiting to happen, but I understand it's not a Lake County. Now, by the way, if you don't mind my saying, I think the city should take a position of neutrality. If I was on the dais and they're asking us, you folks for your opinion, why is it that you don't have you are not required to say you're in favor of it. You're not required to say you are against it. You can take a position of neutrality. And let's not forget that when the complaints start coming in, from all the people who are unbelievably affected by what's happening over there, the calls are not going to go to Lake County. They're going to come to Highland Park. I don't think it's been that long since Clavey Road, and we all remember that all of the comments came to Clavey Road. They didn't go to Lake County or IDOT or whoever
Thank you,
was
Mr.
doing
Portman.
doing that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I know that we could take a position of neutrality, but apparently we have not. I'm going to ask you to grab your seat as your 3 minutes are way over. Councilmember Tapia?
Yeah, I love you, Mark, but as an avid cyclist, and I bike everywhere, we desperately need to get that bike lane on Lake Cook Road. I mean, it's so dangerous without it. And it's a beautiful stretch, and it is busy, but you have options, one of the busy stuff. But in order connectivity, it just makes total sense. It's a missing piece here in an important way, so I'm in favor of it. And I would like to, make the motion to have us vote on it.
I think
There
there is
might be
no
other
motion.
people.
We just say,
Oh.
thumbs up, here's some comments. Other members of the public who wish to be heard, come on forward.
Hi, Mayor, hi, Council. I'm Elliot Rosson, live in the Highlands area, and I'm the chair of the Transportation Advisory Group. I'd like to talk about what they thought and what they perceived from this project. As you know, in March, Lake County came and presented to us. We had a lot of questions, a lot of the same questions that you had, the south side versus the north side versus a north-south option. And I've worked with Lake County on a lot of projects. And Lake County, I think, is a gem in the state in terms of how they think about and plan for these types of big, complex projects. If you look all over the county, they connect paved roads, they connect dirt roads up to Wisconsin, over to McHenry County, down to Cook County. And they are thinking in a much bigger vision of what is necessary. This gap between Skokie Valley Bikeway and the Botanic Gardens is huge. It was identified in Move HB explicitly, as was the safety issues going across Skokie Boulevard and 41. Right now, you have to go on the north side. They would be using that for the north option. Going on the south side across those two roads is non-issue because the volume of traffic going south, entering from the south and going to the south is way more than coming from the north. So it's another reason why you have to keep it north of that point at the least. The environmental issues for the Botanic Garden are huge. I rode by there the other day, this week, last week, and if you look at the vegetation there, you can see that there's some severe drop-offs. There's a lot of very mature trees. There are roads in there. You can understand why the Botanic Garden would be against having it there. And the idea of having to work with the forest preserves of Cook County, which is who owns the Botanic Gardens, Cook County itself, IDOT, and Lake County just creates an incredible number of conflicts and disputes. The bike lane or the bike path is designed for those people who are really not comfortable riding on the road. And those are the people we want to encourage. We want to make sure they can get from the Skokie bike path down to the Botanic Gardens. And as was mentioned, that path is going to continue south. I've been in touch with Northbrook about that. They're making progress. They have some, a couple of things with Union Pacific North and ComEd that they're working through, but that's going to happen sometime in the future. Do I get extra minutes because the
Sure.
previous person?
Equal opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe wrap it up in 2 minutes, though.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll be very short. Safety was the biggest concern here. I've ridden this connection many, many times. It is terrible to go on the north side. The road is dirty. Transitioning across the northbound entrance is absolutely messy. One of the things they talked about a lot, and the consultant talked about, was how they were going to clean up the entry. So when you're going south on 41, cars make a right-hand turn on red. They're going to clean that up because one of the things they found is anything that is in a curved entrance is much more dangerous for pedestrians and cyclists. So they understand how to fix those intersections. That'll be a huge part of this, and going across Skokie Boulevard too. So they really thought this through. It's not something that's new to them. There's a lot to be worked out. And we fully supported the north route, and we unanimously approved a recommendation to the city council to give your support so that they can move forward and do a public hearing in the fall and in the winter and move ahead on next engineering. So there's a lot of work that still has to be done, but it's a great project.
Great. Thank you so much.
Right. If you have any questions about that, I think you guys have all the information you need for a decision here.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Any other members of the public who wish to be heard? Okay. Thank you for the presentation, and keep us posted on what happens with Lake County. And I am now seeking a motion to adjourn the city council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. We will now move back to our committee of the whole meeting. Call roll again, Art?
I don't think you need to, Rebecca. You can
Okay.
note for the record that, well, would note for the record that Councilmember Tapia is not.
Councilmember Tapia will be here momentarily. He is
Indisposed.
indisposed. Chop, chop, AT, we're waiting for you. All righty.
I'm driving now.
Our one last item for Committee of the Whole in session is an update regarding the relocation of Ms. Nitro. Now, I'm going to say this because I am the mayor. We do not need to, every single person, go through and explain 5 reasons why you want or don't want Ms. Nitro in a particular place. I just want to hear from you. Are you okay with Ms. Nitro going to wherever we end up going? Yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down, move on, because we still have closed after this and it's late. Amanda, go ahead.
Okay, with that in mind, so as you know from our staff report, we are seeking your feedback this evening on 3 potential new locations for Miss Nitro. The reason for that is we were working, as you know, with Arbor Terrace, Highland Park, and their parent company. We were unable to come to an agreement regarding a license agreement for that property, so here we are. These are 3 locations that you've already seen, so I'm going to go through them fairly quickly. So briefly about Miss Nitro, as you know, this is the large-scale Peter Volko sculpture that's stood outside the Highland Park Public Library for years. It is composed of large industrial bronze pipe. She is currently in storage, awaiting her final location and conservation treatment. So as you might recall, our first location that we discussed last time around was unanimously recommended by the Cultural Arts Advisory Group and staff, that is Brown Park in the Ravinia District. We have a selection of advantages and considerations on the screen. I will not read them to you because I'm sure you already know it, but I would just like to highlight that this evening, I believe all council members did receive some comment from a resident highlighting advantages and disadvantages of each of these locations in line with his I'm not talking in the microphone, I'm sorry, thank you, Aaron. In line with his understanding of Peter Volkos's original intentions for the work. So I encourage everyone to take a look at that as well. I think it was really informative. One I would just like to highlight from that presentation is that resident identified Brown Park as being the only one of the 3 locations before you that situates the work near a civic building in a well-trafficked, highly visible area. So please keep that in mind.
I'm sorry, but there's a reason why that person made that point. Is that clear? Because
No.
that's what the sculptor.
Yes, that's what she just said.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Peter, so
Grab a
that's
cookie
okay.
and have a seat. All right.
So Peter Volkos, one of the reasons why he was so pleased with the location of the library for this work is that he felt that the juxtaposition of his piece next to a prominent civic building like the library was a real value add. So in this case, Brown Park is situated close to Ravinia Station number 32. Next, Lincoln Place Park, a little south down St. John's. You may recall this from our previous discussion. There is another sculpture. I just want to emphasize that there is another sculpture existing in this park. It's Terrence Karpovitz's Solar Journey. You can see just part of it. It's a multi-piece work in the far right corner in that picture. And then third is the immediate east parcel at the Highland Park Public Library. So if you think about kind of where the entrance is and then the parking structure, this is the parcel to the east of that. I think that we did discuss this quite thoroughly with CAG. Aaron and I both did last summer. I don't believe that council had an extensive conversation on this one. Some advantages here that it is adjacent to HPPL. There is parking, but it's in very close proximity to residences that may limit future development of the space. It's also not as high traffic as you would imagine given the proximity to the library because the entrance to the library is on the other side. So with that in mind, I know that was a very quick overview. Here's the feedback we're requesting. Let me go back to the slide about Brown Park because this is our staff recommendation tonight. I think that, as you see on the screen, moving Miss Nitro to this location is well aligned with the character of the district. We know the Ravinia District is an artsy area. We capitalize on that for advertising our businesses. proximity to Ravinia Festival. We do have ample parking, high visibility from the Metra. And if you recall, one of the key parts of CAG's discussion of all of these locations was the notion of a gateway versus a destination. And one thing I said I would share from our CAG chair is that he did feel that Brown Park was uniquely situated to be both a destination and a gateway. He liked that the gateway to the Ravinia District could be the sculpture, but also it's a destination that people can go and visit.
If I could just interject. So Brown Park and Lincoln Park are owned by the Park District. And so they have given us approval to consider these sites for the sculpture, but they haven't given final approval of their locations. The parcel east of the library is owned by the city, but there is a restrictive covenant on that property that limits it for Park District use. We had talked to them about possibly having a park there or some other type of passive recreational programming. So policy tonight, our recommendation is that you give us a couple of options. What we'd prefer not to do is not walk away with just one location and then the Park District says no and now we're back to square one. So if you could just give us a couple of locations that you're comfortable with, then we can move accordingly. And if you want to prioritize them, of course, we're open to that.
I didn't see the preserve and a spot next to the senior center entrance. I thought that was one of the places that was considered, or is that like not really on the radar?
It was on the radar, if you don't mind, Gita. It was on the radar for the Cultural Arts Advisory Group. It was recommended by one of our advisors, and then when we spoke about it with the Park District, they're not ready to turn the preserve into a sculpture park at this time. They're focusing on it being a rewilded prairie area.
Makes sense. Okay, thanks. Okay, anybody, let's just go around the table. Yumi, what do you think?
I instinctively, Brown Park seems like a good location, destination, and gateway. I meant to ask before this meeting, but we've had so many things to consider, that council be provided with a really simple drawing of, not necessarily even the sculpture, but just, well, a line drawing of it in plan on a site plan to see. And I did ask for that at the very first meeting that we discussed this.
Yeah, we did provide it for Arbor Terrace, as you may recall, which was the preferred location, and we provided that subsequent to that meeting.
I don't remember that, but anyway, could we see it for all the sites? It would be helpful. I really don't think that's a lot of work to plop that down on a site plan. Sure. Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you. John? Oh, Andre, sorry. Brown Park, all right, thank you. John?
Good with Brown, second choice, Lincoln. So it's called?
Lincoln Place.
Place.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce?
Brown Park, first choice, really like the Brown Park location. Second place, second, I would say, by the library, I would say second.
Okay. I'm really popular tonight. I'm really sorry about this, but I am, first of all, I think doing east of the library is ridiculous. I don't think we should tie up that space.
Okay.
I don't think it's in keeping with what we've been saying for the last couple of years. And so now to throw it over there, I think is a big mistake. I also think we just spent, what, $125,000 re-patinaing to the best possible way we possibly could this sculpture to give it the true respect and opportunity to shine quite literally as best it can. And I think that it's one thing to say it's in an area and kids are going to climb on it, that's great. It's another thing to say this is like a central piece that kids are going to jump on and climb on. And I don't want to say destroy, but that is not what this is meant to be. There is, and I am very much opposed to it being in Brown Park. I don't think that that is the vision that we, in terms of vibrancy, had for Brown Park. With everything we've done in terms of building up from an economic development perspective, the Roger Williams area, west of the tracks, east of the tracks, Jen's Jensen for concerts and Food Truck Thursdays, Then there's a playground just to the south of Brown Park, which is highly trafficked, and the kids run wild. They run through Brown, and then they run to all the other things. And it's just a great area, but it's not highly trafficked in terms of that kind of appreciation, in my estimation. The reason I love the idea of Lincoln Place is because I think there's a sculpture there. I think it would really enhance it to have this beautiful sculpture there. It also gives us the opportunity in the future, perhaps if we acquire another sculpture, or at some point, I don't know what we ended up doing with the boy on the swing or whatever.
By the police station.
By the police station. I mean, I would really look to that as a different type of cultural garden and want to develop that, and I see the potential for developing it over time. It is highly trafficked by people on the path. It is highly trafficked by the neighborhood. And that's a neighborhood that we don't give anything to because there is no economic development there, nor should there be. But this is the kind of almost passive beauty that I think would really bring in a different type of culturalism to that area. And that's why I really like Lincoln Park Place. Lincoln Place Park, if I needed to do a second alternate, and I know people don't like it because it's not highly trafficked, but I can tell you now that they've done everything over at Central Avenue, at the end of the bridge. We did such beautification over there. There's the park over there.
Central Park.
And there's other statues there too. So these are the two places that I walk everywhere in this town, and those are the two parks where I've noticed a statue or something that's beautiful and simple. And you know, frankly, since you all have started working on the remembrance, I now look at parks as someplace, I kind of look at them as a place to be peaceful and quiet. And I think that both of those offer us that opportunity with plenty of space. That's the other thing. I don't think Brown is big enough. I think it's busy, it's congested, it's crazy over there, which is wonderful. That's the vibrancy we want. This isn't the same tone, and it takes a lot of space.
Thank you. Tony?
I have no preference.
Okay.
Really, thank you.
I'm cool with Brown Park, and I don't like the other options, so. Yes,
I did want to throw in there, because I forgot to mention, because Ida did ask for two. Lincoln would be my second, but Brown Park is still
Your first.
My first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If you could get the drawings as soon as possible.
Yeah, we'll send them by email.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so closed session will now be in our committee of the whole, so I am seeking a motion to go into closed session for purposes of pending litigation, purchase or lease of property, and security. I'll let you tell us what your motion includes as far as the actual sections.
My motion includes going into closed session for discussion of pending litigation and purchase or lease of property pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C11 and 5.
As well as security under.
As well as security 2C8.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Please call the vote.
Councilmember Center?
Aye.
Councilmember Brockman? Aye. Councilmember Ross?
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia? Aye. Councilmember Littleworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg?
Aye.
Mayor Vernon?
Aye. 7 ayes, no nays. We will go into closed session.